Did you guys catch Ricky Gervais at that awards dinner the other night? Wowzers, what has gotten into him? He appears to be frantically hedging his association with Hollywood. Now, why would he be hedging? Well, personally, I think it's because of Q. Now, why do I think that? Well, first, quick recap of what Q is. Q is a military intelligence operation designed to inform the public of some very unpleasant truths about our country and to lay the groundwork for some very overdue changes in our political system. It's like a metaphorical Mongol horde charging into battle with their horses arranged in a half circle, quickly closing the loop around the enemy, in this case, Team Hollywood, and causing maximum confusion, chaos, discord, and ultimately, desertion. Now in this metaphor, Ricky is the Team Hollywood soldier riding along the back. He's along for the ride, but he's not super down for the cause. And he kind of gets what's going on because he's rubbed shoulders with those worthless European royals. He sees the obvious ambush, and so he's turning around and dipping out as quickly as possible. It will be very interesting to see who else in Hollywood recognizes the obvious ambush and breaks ranks in the coming weeks. I know many of you hear Q and immediately think, what the F? Satanic pedophile conspiracies? What am I looking at? And who could believe this crazy nonsense? Well, if it was a movie, it'd be a match between Game of Thrones, Assassin's Creed, The Da Vinci Code, The Matrix, Lord of War, and The Punisher. And can't speak for everyone in the Q horde, but the reason that I personally believe is because of a big data analysis project I did on WikiLeaks and the Panama Papers. If you don't know what that is, that was hundreds of thousands of indisputably authentic government documents that have been leaked over the past decade or so. I happen to know for a fact that Trump has a ginormous ace up his sleeve and that he definitely will use it before the next election. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, the best place to start would be here. This JFK quote. I will splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds. Direct quote. Now, why would he say that? He would say something like that because he realized that the CIA is secretly controlled by a medieval cult of European royals called D6. What is D6? D6 is a satanic medieval pedophile cult that secretly controls the world's organized crime, primarily drug and human trafficking, and uses the proceeds to finance covert operations for the CIA and MI6. Covert operations such as killing Jeffrey Epstein, arming ISIS with tanks and tow missiles, staging chemical weapons attacks to fake us into a war in Syria, and studying, on the DL, a bunch of extraterrestrial future weapons. It is based on the bloodline of Auschwitz, that's Württen, with a W because it's a German word, aka House Coburg and Saxe-Gotha, the royal family who has covertly dominated Europe for the last 1,000 years and who currently controls the thrones of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Belgium, Liechtenstein, and the Netherlands. Now, most of you are probably thinking, come on, weird computer guy, how could that possibly be pulled off in today's modern age? And the answer is simple. Admiralty law, signals intelligence, sovereign immunity, selective breeding, and approximately 1,000 years of practice. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth is actually still the legal commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the UK? Not just a formality like they say. Boris Johnson, Bojo Jojo, is more like a Nancy Pelosi, like a Speaker of the House, than a head of state. Maybe you did know that. But did you know that she's also legally the commander-in-chief of Australia, New Zealand, and Canada? Maybe you're a smart cookie and you did. But did you know that she is also the commander-in-chief of Jamaica and Belize? I bet you didn't. Sounds an awful lot like modern colonialism, doesn't it? But that's a conversation for another minute. Moving on. So JFK needed a way to rein in his wildly insubordinate and treasonous CIA. So he started a new spy agency called the DIA to replace them. It was organized under the Department of Defense instead of the Department of State like the CIA is, so that the US presidents in the future could be in full control of intelligence operations and not have to deal with a bunch of sniveling insubordinate bureaucrats. Right as he was starting to publicly expose the royal death racket, he was assassinated. And here's an excerpt of the speech he gave shortly before he died. Direct quote. "For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match." So JFK gets murked by this medieval conspiracy, and there's pretty much been a global shadow war raging ever since. One that's been very, very hard to win, even for a badass military intelligence agency like the DIA, because the royal death racket has their spies and puppets stacked throughout the entire world. Pretty much every government, religion, and corporate establishment around the entire planet. Removing them by force wouldn't work because they possess this very tricky little self-destruct mechanism. Our entire system was built around the Treaty of Tordesillas, a legal document produced by that corrupt Borgia Pope in the 1500s, which gave ownership of the Americas to the Kingdom of Spain and ownership of the rest of the world to the Kingdom of Portugal, essentially like a line drawn down the middle of the Atlantic. Cadet branches of the royal death racket currently hold the legal claims to both, meaning they own the entire world, in their eyes at least. And they use the treaty as the foundations of all other economic and political systems across the globe. So kind of designed to where if they were overthrown by force, it would cut the legs out from our system and trigger a major global catastrophe. So couldn't do that. Meaning that, theoretically, the only way to defuse this self-destruct mechanism would be to get someone with a bloodline claim to take back that Spanish throne and to neutralize that treaty with some carefully crafted legislation. To do that, one would need a mighty military behind them, as the royals have extraterrestrial future weapons and entrenched assassin squads surrounding the globe. So the DIA needed a seated president and a bloodline descendant of, say, House Aragon, maybe, to defeat and destroy the royal death racket once and for all. Since the royal death racket consolidated much of its military power in the United States, which it controlled, they would need to seat a president who was aware of the mission, strong enough to endure the onslaught he would endure, and smart enough to protect the Spanish bloodline descendant to the throne long enough for the royal claim to be unwound. Enter Donald Trump, a TV star businessman with a lifetime of experience pushing through obstacles like government corruption and organized crime to become a billionaire, and a lifetime of experience being relentlessly attacked by the media. Ideal candidate for the goal line stand of the millennium in 2016. Now, there are many haters out there that like to tease us QAnoners over Trump's supposed 87D game of chess. What those haters don't yet realize is that this, my friend, is more like a 10 billion D game of chess, not an 87D one. But they will realize that soon enough. And Trump, to be frank, has been way better than expected, in my opinion. because he not only defeated the royal death cult, he also managed to turn the tables on his domestic political opponents when he baited them into setting two precedents that would ultimately lead to their own demise. Precedent number one, the precedent of investigating political opponents for treason. Precedent number two, maliciously prosecuting former directors of intel agencies. Yeah, Democrats, you know that guy that you railroaded over the past few years? You know, you changed the reports and a bunch of unfair stuff. I think his name was, oh yeah, that's right, Michael Flynn. Yeah, that guy is actually the ex-head of DIA. In case you guys didn't know, the DIA is actually a massive government intelligence agency similar to the CIA, except for instead of being run by bumbling buffoons, it's run by battle-hardened killers. Whoops! Sucks to suck, donkeys. Now, most of you Q haters probably still won't believe us, even after John Durham formally prosecutes Comey, Clapper, and Brennan. And you're gonna shriek and scream and moan and whine that democracy is ending, even though it technically just begun. So tell you what, let's just settle it this way. By demanding the declassification and release of all of those JFK documents. You know, the ones that were supposed to come out 2 years ago? Yet for some unexplainable reason, we are still not allowed to see. 57 years later. 57 years later. If I'm wrong, and there is no conspiracy, then release the documents, like tomorrow. And if they won't release them, then maybe we should all be asking, why the hell not? I mean, come on, lefties. JFK was your guy. If Trump was assassinated, I can guarantee you that we would not wait 57 years to raise hell. Why won't you? Food for thought.